Why? Oh
Oh
no.
no, I'm not going to pronounce that right ever.
I don't think I'm pronouncing it right. I think it's Hwaseong. Hi everyone, welcome to the third episode of Merly and Joe. And I'm proud to say this is the longest we have ever been in consistent uploading and making videos. Are you proud of that?
What I was understanding was we are getting a lot of love for our short form and long form videos, and we truly appreciate that. A few people have taken the time to comment on those videos, on what they feel is nice and what they feel can be improved. Guys, is much appreciated, and thank you for all your love and support. So, Angela, what do we have for today?
Right. So today I have a case that is kind of sad and interesting in a way that all the pieces of the puzzle kind of convoluted to help the killer, which is not something we ever see in a lot of uh, stories.
Is it solved or unsolved?
It's solved, but I don't think it was solved in time or the solution is was that appreciated. You'll see.
All right.
Hwaseong, South Korea.
Why? Oh no.
Oh no, I'm not going to pronounce that right ever.
I don't think I'm pronouncing it right. I think it's Hwaseong. I don't know. I sound a bit racist when I say that. Okay.
All right.
Small farming town of rice fields and narrow dirt roads. The kind of place where people left doors unlocked. A lonely night in 1986, 71-year-old Lee Van Im was returning home after visiting her daughter. 4 days later, she was found dead. Her hands bound, her mouth gagged, her body left in a field. Her own stockings had been used to strangle her. No one could imagine it then, but this was only the beginning. Between 1986 and 1991, 10 women would die the same way, all within a few miles of each other, all victims of a man who would become known as the Hwaseong serial killer.
So, I'm guessing by the names that this murder has happened in South Korea.
Right.
Am I right?
Because I told that the first thing when I started.
Yes. My attention span is that of a goldfish, but very interesting.
Right. So this is kind of gruesome, but let's keep going.
All right.
Lee Chun-jae was born in 1963 in Hwaseong. He was quiet, polite, ordinary. But his childhood carried a secret wound. His younger brother, who drowned when Lee was a boy. Relatives said something changed in him after that. He grew withdrawn, cold. After high school, Lee joined the Republic of Korea Army, driving tanks near the DMC. He came home with discipline, but also darkness.
A lot of the stories I read about the serial killers has, I'm not saying military has a lot of things to blame, but I think they do play a lot of, like for people who look for darkness, I think military do provide them with the darkness.
I mean, I don't think they go looking for it, but it changes them inadvertently. It kind of brings about a sense of dread. Like every day they are fighting or they are kind of surviving in climates and a lot of places where survival is quite hard. So a little bit of difficult. Their life is just based on that survival. So every day their morals and people who aren't able to keep up through that with a conscience. Because if you look at it from a soldier's point of view, right? They are maybe in the harshest winters, the hottest deserts, and all they're doing is fighting and they're trying to survive. So the morality or the consciousness of their mind kind of gets lost somewhere in there. And the people who return home after those time of war or whatnot, they kind of lose that, at least to a bit. And some people is even more. And those kind of people are something that we need to help. But in this case, it was a little bit late and beyond help.
70s was a tough time. I think they had that Korean War happening as well.
Right.
2 months after Lee Van Im's death in 1986, 25-year-old Park Hyuk-soon was found murdered in Hwaseong when returning home after meeting a prospective marriage partner. In December of the same year, Lee Kae-suk, aged 23, was found murdered using the same MOM and the body dumped in the ridge between the rice fields. The killings didn't stop there. What followed from 1987 to 1988 were 4 more murders. Hong Jin-yoon, age 19, Park Yoon-ju, age 29, An Gi-soon, age 54, and Park Sang-hee, age 14. The killer's signature was unmistakable. The victims' own clothes used to bind, gag, and strangle them. Rainy nights, quiet paths, no witnesses. Panic spread across Hwaseong. Women refused to go out after dark. Husbands walked wives to the bus stop. Police warned citizens to wear red. The killer, rumors said, targeted women in white, but the murders didn't stop.
You know what? It's so. I listened to this beautiful podcast which was in Malayalam. I was listening to another killer, was a famous killer, Zodiac. Maybe he will show up later in any of our long form videos or short form. We never know. But one thing which I found very similar to that video and this is that apparently Zodiac killer had a trait where they figured that he must have had a military background because the way he tore the clothes. So I always thought, like, yeah, you see in the movies, like the way they tear the clothes, right? Yeah, anyone can do that during that time. But apparently, they are trained to tear off different kinds of clothes from different materials. Why they trained is not because they want to do striptease. It's rather they want to use it as tourniquets. You know, they can tear off the clothes and use it as tourniquets. I not, but I think somehow the fact that I listened to that video and Zodiac had torn a piece of cloth, he used it as a souvenir. But in this case, I think.
I mean, he used to tear the clothes and use the same clothes to bind them, gag them. So
Exactly.
it had a purpose, same
It's
as
not easy
what
at
they
all.
would do in military.
Exactly. It's not easy to tear a lot of materials. I think that's an interesting.
And also, this serial killer, he had no age range of women that he chose to kill. He killed ages from 14 to 71. And this is of the recorded victims. When we found him, he confessed to more than that. So he had killed women, but there was nothing common with the women or the ages which they were killed in. What was common was the place, Hwaseong, and it had a lot of rice paddy. A lot of the bodies were dumped near the ridges or the canals or the rice paddies. So we know the killer was somewhere in that area, and many of the victims were picked from the bus stops when they were returning home. As we saw in the case of I was Park Hyuk-soon, she was in the bus stop when she was kidnapped, and she was. So the sad part was she was returning after she had met with a prospective marriage partner. So it's very sad to see that victims were taken away from places where where it is supposed to be safe. It is a part of their day-to-day life. You know, a bus stop needs to be safe, especially for women nowadays.
I wanted to clarify this video since we have been posting a lot of videos on because our channel is more on supernatural, creepy, strange, dark, and mysterious. So people think that okay, we are people who love macabre stuff. That is not the case, guys. I mean, for the real true detective fans out there, you guys know that we love to talk about those cases, which gives us curiosity, and we do definitely empathize with the victims, right? And I feel like me and you, Angela. So for us, it's I think the cases we do, the stuff we talk about, they bring the victims also into the picture. You know, it's a very sad thing which these people have gone through. So,
and I think that was one of the main reason for me to kind of list out those names, because those are actual humans whose lives were taken. Just so the people who follow the story, yes, you follow the story, but what was the loss? It was the human lives that were taken.
What followed was the largest investigation in Korean history. More than 2 million man-days were spent, 21,000 suspects questioned, 40,000 fingerprints collected. Detectives scoured rice paddies, canals, and train stations. They even sent investigators undercover into local bars, bus stops, and factories. But nothing led them anywhere. Forensic science in Korea at the time was primitive. DNA testing wasn't yet standard. The killer was a ghost, one who seemed to vanish into the mist after every murder.
So this is one of the important points, you know, forensic science, this was in 1980, right? So at that point of time, forensic science in Korea, no, the killing happened from 1986.
Oh, okay.
So it was not fully developed, the forensic science, which was a huge kind of a big reason why this investigation at this time wasn't successful. But later on, when the forensic science developed, things changes, as we will see as the story develops. So the Korean police is stunned at the fact that someone is able to make this many murders in such frequent level. And they go all out. They collect every suspect, they collect every fingerprint. And I think that's also one of the reasons why the investigation was so tiresome, because they have so much of this backlog of the suspects and of evidence that no one can decode through it that easy. And there isn't a certain reason for a person being suspect, which we'll see later on, where people were just suspected due to related, because the pressure was immense. Yeah, people needed to close the case, and that kind of derails the investigation even further.
What people don't realize is there's a lot of manpower involved. It's not like the movies where you just come across an article and then you come across a clue, because people have to go be methodical, right? You have to go through a lot of factors, a lot of filing, a lot of paperwork involved in it, I'm sure. I don't know if 1970s Korea was equipped. I mean, I don't know the country, I don't know how it was, but what I read or what I hear from you, I get the feeling that
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know they don't have the
they
manpower.
spent 2 million man hours behind this. So yeah, I mean, even if they may not have, they were putting people to the task. Whichever resources they have, they weren't sparing any expense. They needed this to be solved.
In 1989, the pressure was crushing the investigation. The country demanded answers. That's when police arrested Yoon Sung-yew, a 22-year-old factory worker with a limp. He was interrogated for days, beaten. Eventually, Yoon confessed just to make it stop. He was convicted of one of the Hwaseong murders and sentenced to life in prison. The police declared victory. In fact, at least 4 potential suspects died by suicide amid claims of police mistreatment, but the killings continued.
Right, this is one of the major reasons why this case took a very wrong turn. The police, the managerial position, and they are having a lot of pressure. Yes, but doing a job half-mindedly, and that too in such a case, shouldn't be accepted on any terms.
Was he freed in the end?
So he does get freed in the end, but I don't think it was soon enough when he did get freed, because it was too late for him in his life.
In November 1990, Kim Mi-jung, age 14, was found murdered while returning home. And in 1991, Kwon Sung-sang, age 69, was found strangled after getting off the bus. The real killer was still out there.
Sure, a lot of these killers, they go underground and under the radar. But the countries like US and all, we'll read a lot about them and how they prey. But if you look at a country like India or Kerala, there is a lot of crowd policing stuff which works. All the peeping toms. The people go out and sometimes they met justice on their own, which is not ideal, guys. I'm not saying that none of us should do
But
it.
it's easy to spot someone because you just need to keep asking in the neighborhood. If you see someone suspicious,
Exactly.
there's
There's a
always one
community
auntie like,
called
oh, I just saw a man walking.
exactly, yeah.
3 years after the last Hwaseong murder, Lee's rage found a new victim, his 18-year-old sister-in-law. She came to visit him in Cheongju. He offered her a drink, then attacked her, strangling her and hiding her body beneath the floorboards. Police found her body 5 days later. Lee didn't run, he didn't resist. He simply said, "I don't know why I did it." He was sentenced to death, later reduced to life in prison. And so, by sheer chance, the Hwaseong killer was finally off the streets, but no one knew it yet.
So
They're
this is
related. Good
yeah,
God.
yeah, and the worst part is, so he killed his sister-in-law because a year before that, his wife had left him because Lee also had an issue of being drunk and doing domestic abuse at home. So his wife had left him a year ago, and then he called his sister-in-law in the pretext of talking to her, kind of talking on his reference to his wife. But anyhow, he killed her, and he goes to his father-in-law and tells that she's missing, and tries helping to find the missing girl. This man has no morals on any kind of grounds.
So why did the police suspect him of killing? Like, how did they found the body inside
They
the house?
found the body, and he didn't say anything wrong about it. He just said, I don't know why I did it. I did it. I don't know why I did it.
But I think this time he hit too close at home. Huh? Before that, he was looking for
Maybe.
random.
Yeah, I think he got too confident at this point, and then he messed up. And he was also kind of inquiring, what is the punishment for a rape and kill? It's just that's what bothered him the most. The punishment for rape and kill. It wasn't the fact that he did in fact kill a person.
For years, the Hwaseong murders haunted South Korea. They became the country's most infamous unsolved mystery. Journalists dug through archives, detectives retired in shame, the families of the victims waited for answers that never came. And then, in 2003, a young filmmaker named Bong Joon-ho released a movie. It was called Memories of Murder, a haunting, melancholic retelling of the Hwaseong case.
The Hwaseong.
Damn.
Yeah,
Oh,
have
yeah,
seen
seen
the
that movie. Oh my God. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it comes to me. Oh my. Wait, there's this crazy scene in that movie.
2 detectives chasing a killer they cannot catch. The final scene of the film shows a detective staring into the camera, whispering, "He looked just like an ordinary man." No one realized how true that line would prove to be.
I heard the director was telling that guy was trying to talk to the killer.
Right, exactly.
Damn.
So this was at a point when, so he's inside, which is why the killings has stopped. But people haven't solved it yet, and they think it's a ghost. They don't know what happened, but he's actually in the jails for unrelated murder. And so it's an unsolved mystery at this point. People are speculating, and it hurts for the victim's family so much that such a person cannot be caught even after this long. And he makes this movie, and even though people had no clue that he was an ordinary man, the director had assumed he would be, and that scene is kind of the most kind of a killer scene if you've seen the movie.
Has the killer seen the movie?
Yeah, no, not the killer. I mean, the scene.
Has the killer actually seen the movie? Like maybe they think.
Yeah, he did see the movie, and he said it didn't make me feel anything. It just wasn't a good movie. But the good thing was he was inside, and he goes to prison, and that's when things take a turn.
In 2019, a new generation of investigators reopened the old Hwaseong files. Technology had evolved, DNA testing was now routine. From a piece of fabric taken from one of the victims, scientists extracted a clean DNA sample. They ran it through the national databases. A match came back. Lee Chun-jae. At that moment, the ghost of Hwaseong had a face.
Finally, right? But
Yeah,
I mean, it's at least to catch him, but this is in 2019, which is not that long back.
Yeah, but I think I do still feel it's better, however late. It's just at least it's better to catch. And just heartbreaking to see the families of the victim, not knowing who killed or not knowing what happened, and they keep going through that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at least the new investigators were willing, or they thought of reopening it and kind of running it to the national databases. So kind of kudos to that, because they could have been desperate and just be like, it's a cold case, there's nothing to be done.
Exactly.
When confronted in prison, Lee didn't deny it. In fact, he began to talk. He confessed to 14 murders and over 30 sexual assaults. He spoke plainly, without remorse, describing how he followed women home, how he strangled them, how he felt nothing afterward. During questioning, he even apologized to Yoon Sung-yeol, the innocent man who spent 2 decades behind bars for one of his crimes. When asked why he killed, Lee said, "Curiosity, that's all."
Curiosity about what?
About knowing what it's like to kill, knowing how it is to strangle a person like that.
So you do it 14 times. Right?
14 murders and 30 sexual assaults, yeah. And the only decent thing he did was kind of apologize to the person behind bars.
You know what? We need to do I feel like we also need to do a bright video after this kind of videos, because really, this is depressing.
But there was a cruel twist. Because of South Korea's 15-year statute of limitations since abolished, Lee could not be tried for the Hwaseong murders. He would never face a court for those 10 women. Still, his confession changed everything. In 2020, Yoon Sung-yeol was formally exonerated. The police issued a public apology for their failures, and Lee Chun-jae, sitting in his small cell in Busan prison, finally admitted what the world has suspected for decades. He said, "I didn't expect to get caught. I thought those crimes were buried forever."
So, does this guy get out then?
So he could not be tried, but also he doesn't request for parole, because he knew he'll be killed if he goes out of the jail. He'll probably be lynched and shit. So in all terms, it's just so close, but not close enough, right?
No, I mean, he's in prison, but yeah, I mean,
it's not fair.
I like the fact that he's scared to go out. So
he knows what he has done. I mean, he knows what is the extent of his murders are.
Hwaseong murders left scars deeper than any headline. They reshaped South Korea's entire criminal justice system. DNA testing became mandatory, the statute of limitations for murder was abolished, and the case became a lesson in humility for law enforcement everywhere. But it also became part of culture, through memories of murder, through documentaries, through the whispers that still echo across the fields of Hwaseong. Today, when locals walk the same paths, they say the nights still feel heavy, that the silence carries a memory, a shadow of the fear that once gripped their town. The ghost of Hwaseong may never have a name, but some ghosts never rest.
Although I must say, I feel like when I researched this one, it was so sad. It was one of the most depressing stories I've ever, like serial killer cases.
I feel like we need to talk about the poop in the aeroplane again, just to bring back that.
Just to cheer us.
Nothing related to the video, but we just thought just to lighten the mood. No, don't give out any teasers. Just go watch that short. We'll love it.
So yes, so that's the case of Hwaseong serial killer murders, and I mean, just unfair on many levels, and it is sad. Although some stories are like that. I mean, there is some part, at least for the man who got released. I feel at least after 20 years, he was exonerated.
Was he hopefully he was paid a large sum for the wrongful exoneration, and maybe he's living out at a beach somewhere. Can I hope he was given a huge amount from the government,
I'm not sure about that part. I mean, right now, if you look at his point of view,
thorough research, guys. That's the thing. I'm trying to end this podcast in a good mood, and Angel just brings it down with her poetry and philosophy.
I'm just saying.
I'm trying to end it with the poop
Life
and
is
thing we talk
hard,
about.
people. Okay, fine.
Guys, peace out.